The next topic I'd like to talk about is keyframes for Shotcut. So keyframes are the frames in a video clip where the beginning or the end of a parametric change is set. So for example, you can specify changes in the size of the image, the position, the amount of cropping, the volume or gain that you want to apply to the sound, the color, fading or opacity, or even text like the size, position, flying in from the left, flying out to the right, of that sort of thing of text. So there are many filters in Shotcut that have the ability to specify changes in how things look as the video is playing. And in Shotcut, the filters that have keyframe capability have this little like stopwatch sort of timer symbol shown next to the filter. So clicking that little timer specifies that you're going to specify changes in what this filter does as the video is playing. In this first example of using keyframes, we'll have a look at volume control. So I'll bring in the filter for gain and volume, and it's set to 0. I'll just play it. You'll hear the audio. It's quite loud. Pause that. We'll set the gain to say -20. This will just apply to the whole clip. Play it. It's a little quieter. So say if we wanted to quieten the audio down from this location for the next 10 seconds, for example. So we'll go to keyframes, tick the hourglass. Now it's put a little marker here, which is a keyframe, which is specifying -20 at that location. If we wanted to go, say, out to here, just add another keyframe. We'll add another keyframe at the same volume. If we say wanted to go back to normal volume at this point, we'll add another keyframe. We'll set it to 0. And what I should have done right back at the start, we'll add another keyframe right here at the start, add a keyframe, set it to 0. So you can see here the volume is going to dip down like linearly, maintain a certain volume, which is -20, and then increase linearly to 0. So we'll play that and you'll hear the difference. Quietening down. So it's sitting here at -20. When it reaches this location here, it'll start to get louder. So it's back to full noise. Now, of course, you can move these with a mouse, but it's a bit tricky because they're very touchy. But I could set that to -50 or something, which is almost going to cut the sound out altogether. Have a listen to this. Virtually can't hear anything now. It'll increase linearly back to -20 and then back to 0. So that's just a simple example of using keyframes. If you right click on the keyframe, you can change the way they behave a little bit. So the shape dictates how it operates. So the diamond shape to the next keyframe, it's going to be linear, and we can see it's a linear reduction. A diamond shape, it'll be linear. If we made this one smooth, from the previous, if we made it smooth, it's going to be like a sine wave sort of a. So have a listen to the difference. So kind of a quicker reduction, holds it a bit longer, then reduces it more rapidly. So look, you can play with that, but I usually just go linear. To activate the keyframe, you need to click on the little timer thing up here, select keyframes on the bottom tab, and then position the playhead where you want it. If you want to add a keyframe, add it at that point and specify what you want the volume to be, like 0. So you can make it go up and down, hold at certain levels, do whatever you like. If you have a keyframe you want to remove, left mouse click, right mouse click, and go remove. If you want to see the entire clip that has keyframes applied, then you simply click on this little square button here. That'll just shrink the timeline in a bit, or the keyframe timeline in a bit, so you can see the entire length of it. If you want to get rid of all of the keyframes, untick the timer. That'll say this will remove all the keyframes for this parameter. Do you still want to continue? Say yes. They're all gone, so you're just back to a standard clip. Another thing you might want to use keyframes for is to change the size of the video progressively. So you can add a filter for size, position, and rotate. And click on this timer here, which allows you to change the position, the size, the zoom level. Click on that. So it's initiated it on the keyframe tab. So here's the timeline tab, here's the keyframe tab. When I click that timer there, it added a keyframe here. Now let's say over the next few seconds we want to change that to shrink it down. So we'll add a keyframe there, and I'll just shrink it down to that size. If we wanted to do it more rapidly, we just bring this end keyframe in a bit. So we can bring it into there. And let's just add some sound reduction. I'll go -60 just to quieten this thing down. Go back to there. Have a look at the keyframe tab. We go to the size. Now, we're on the keyframe tab. You have to click the appropriate filter, size, position. So we'll see when it hits this point here, it'll start reducing in size, and it'll be down to the small size by there. So let's play it through. Start shrinking. Okay. Of course, you can do that quite quickly, and we can change the size. So if we click on this point here, we want it a bit larger. Just bring it back out. You can see the parameters changing. So now it'll shrink quickly, but to a different size. Of course, if we want to go to this end position and have it end in a different location, we can move it. Let's say down there. So let's play it through. It's going to shrink and move. If we wanted to move it to another location at this point, we just add a keyframe and tell it where the new spot is. So now we'll see it shrink and then move again. And of course, you could add some rotation as well. You can change other things, but usually the one that I use the most is the top one here, which is the position, the size, or the zoom. Another thing you could add is brightness, just to add a whole lot of brightness to basically create a white screen. So let's say at this point here, we'll add a filter in for brightness and go to the keyframe tab. We're already on it. Here it is here. Let's turn that on. So let's say within a few seconds, we want to add a keyframe there where we want it basically white out, something like that. Okay, so you see the impact. And of course you could take this second keyframe and move it up and down. You could have it black out or white out over time. So it's quite flexible. You can adjust the opacity of something like text. So here we've got a simple text filter. I've just typed the word opacity. We have 100% opacity. So see we've got the hourglass symbol here, so I can click on that to make that the keyframe. Now we'll just zoom in a bit so I can see what's going on here. So that text is over the top of the video, so we can leave it at full opacity for a while. So get into this location here, and we can add a keyframe and get in a few more seconds, add another keyframe, and on that second one let's make it really low, and at the end of the video let's make it really low as well. I'll just grab this endpoint and bring it down to 0. So if we play that, it's full opacity. Oh, okay, that happened a bit too quickly. I'll move that out. Watch this. You see the text fade out. So it fades out from full opacity at this location. We can see it's 100%. 5 few seconds in, it's 50%, down to 0. And if we wanted to, we could add another keyframe there, hold it at 0. We could add another keyframe here and set it back to 100. We just type 100 in. And this keyframe, we can just get rid of it, remove it. So now we'll see it go down and then go back up. Down and back up. So quite flexible. Another thing you could do is do some cropping while the video is playing. So we can add a filter for crop rectangle. And in this case, we would need to tick the timer here that changes the size of the rectangle that we're going to crop. So click it there. So that's going to add a keyframe at this location where nothing is cropped at this point. Go in, let's say 5 seconds in or so, and we could crop it down to that size. Just see the tree, for example. And now play it. Full cropping. We've just got the tree. Okay, we'd also do color grading with keyframes. That's not something I've done, but of course you could do it. So here's the clip with no color grading. I've got the color grading filter in, position the playhead, so 5 seconds in on the clip. We can, so right, we're going to have a keyframe here, and we're going to have a keyframe here. I'll just shrink that up so we can see it. So we'll add a keyframe there as well. And at this second one, we want the darks, the shadows to be a bit darker. So play it through. Let's see, it's going to change as the video is playing. Probably the last keyframe I'll cover is just things to do with text. So there are actually quite a few just built-in options for sliding text in, sliding text out, one side to the other, up or down, just built in. But we'll just have a look at what can be done with keyframes for text. So I've just got some basic text here using the text simple filter, and there are the words there. So if we make the font color a keyframe, well, we'll go onto the keyframes tab first, make font color a keyframe, and we can choose a color, let's say red, and we can make the background keyframe, and we can choose a background color. Let's go pinky color. And we can make the size and position the keyframe. So I've added a keyframe for size and position. We can just leave it where it is. So I'll move the playhead on for a bit further on. So we can change the font color. Let's say blue. We can change the background color. And Might pick a screen color this time, so sky blue. And we can change the position just by moving. So we're moving that up out of the way somewhere, like that. So when I moved it, it adjusted the size and position parameters. So we'll bring the playhead back there, play it through, you'll see the text color change, the background color will go to blue, the size will change. So that's just an example of what can be done, and there are other things that can be adjusted too, but that gives you a feel for the options with text keyframes.